One Punch Man Season 3 Episode 3 cut this scene during the Garo vs Bug God and Royal Ripper fight. Nothing too major, but a goated moment I wish was animated. A similar situation with some of the monsters' introduction and build up. We saw some of this Rhino dude punching the boxing bag, but not a full panel spread like this one on screen right here. Apart from that, everything from the 1.5 chapters adapted in this episode was covered, with once again most of it being dialogue. Therefore, as a whole, animation wise, I'll say 6 out of 10. Pacing, once again, 5 out of 10. And overall enjoyment, I would still say around a 7, but probably episode 2 was my most enjoyable out of this season so far. I do wish they added more when it comes to the main Monster Association members introduction. It was literally just one-on-one with the manga panel, just a PowerPoint slideshow you could say. No enhancements or making it more hype, apart from you could say slight background music and the coloured aspect, since this is an anime, not a manga. So with all of this said as well, I'm not gonna lie, I feel as though reading the manga has actually ruined the One Punch Man anime for me. Back when season 2 came out, I was still an anime only fan and hadn't read anything in regards to the manga. But since then, over the last 6 years, I've read it multiple times from start to finish, making chapter review videos when new ones drop, power ranking and various other content here on Mysterious Weeb. Not finding the same enjoyment that I did with season 2, which so far, based on the first 3 episodes that are being released for season 3, I would say they're pretty much the same quality or the same range, broadly speaking, when it comes to anime rankings, broadly speaking, somewhere in the 6 range. Finding that the manga is just so good that it's hard to really enjoy the anime if it isn't the quality for season 1. And that is a similar situation with most anime these days for me. There's not many I would regard as having a superior anime version. There's a few, and One Punch Man Season 1 maybe achieved that legendary status, but now you could say I've become manga pilled. And that's not really just because of the animation. I'm literally a webcomic enjoyer of One Punch Man as well, and low-key consider the writing, or at the very least the comedy in the webcomic, superior to the manga adaptation. So with that out of the way, let's continue the breakdown of Season 3, Episode 3 of One Punch Man. So I believe they did the limit-breaking reveals about Saitama quite well. It wasn't the craziest, most hype scene. There was a lot of stills and not really any animation used for that whole sequence. They could say that's not really required. One-on-one with the manga, once again, like always. No information was underused or misinformed, that is the canon of Saitama's power. At least you could say what we know even now, which is pretty interesting. So definitely keep that in mind. The Garo fight had decently fast pacing. It wasn't slow like a later fight I'll go over shortly, but as a whole they cut that one moment I mentioned earlier. It wasn't the most hype. Some moments looked good, others looked goofy. No real complaints, and I wouldn't even consider this a main fight of the entire season. So hopefully they're saving more greatness for later on. And then when it comes to the other fight, the sparring match between these two monsters, that felt insanely slow, I'm not going to lie. Yes, it is an incredibly minor fight, but if this is what they're going to provide for characters who are more so meant to be speedsters, I am having quite some worries about the upcoming fights, the more important ones you could say, but still these ones are all minor ones, solely a build-up episode for the greatness that is coming. But as always, my main concern still connects to the pacing. By the end of this episode, we are around 60% the way through chapter 89, and next week's episode is going to begin with the hype moment of Garo getting up and completely locking in to save the kid. A pretty goated moment, but one we already saw all those years ago in the original preview or trailer that was made, which many people are actually preferring over what we got in this anime episode, which is unfortunate, but expect more dialogue for a majority of next week's episode. I thought more content would be put into this one, but that isn't the case like always. However, you could say the 3 episode rule hasn't really worked too well when it comes to One Punch Man Season 3. Many people say when starting a new anime or a new anime season, you have to give it at least 3 episodes before you start judging the quality, even though a majority of people in the comments and just around the community are by no means doing that, even me. But if you were someone that took that 3 episode rule serious, I could say you're probably disappointed after watching the 3 that have been released so far, with their majority just being stills and dialogue. Yes, that's the case in the manga, but I feel as though they could be getting through a lot of this dialogue much faster like they did in the previous 2 seasons. Now, in regards to the recent controversy with the director of this season actually being forced, or you could say being over the hate he was receiving. As such, he deleted his Twitter or X account, causing mass outrage for various channels that were reacting to these episodes, hating on it to an insane degree, and is overall wild stuff across the broader anime community, not solely in the One Punch Man fandom at this point. Something you could say has gotten many more people talking about One Punch Man and maybe even watching the current season, whether it be hate watching or just being aware of the current season going on right now. But you could also say, due to this increased engagement, perhaps more anime only fans will actually consider checking out the manga and likely become manga fans instead, which you could say is the absolute and best outcome of anime seasons. If they get more people reading the manga, that's literally the main thing I care about at this point. When a new Baki, when a new Kengan or Record Ragnarok season drops, I hope it's good enough to get people watching and then enjoying the series so much they can't wait any longer and reading the manga. Something that is, by the way, still ongoing, just released a new chapter a few days ago, is still a little bit behind the webcomic and likely will continue for many more years. Therefore, if you haven't checked it out in the big 2025 or haven't caught up, I guess now's the perfect time to do so, with the quality of season 3 likely not to increase that drastically moving forward. Hopefully I'm wrong and we get completely blown away in the upcoming few episodes, which do indeed have more important fights, but in the same vein they are ones that require, you could say, more animation due to the insanity that will be occurring on screen. But if you haven't already, make sure to watch this video uploaded a few days ago on the channel breaking down what's going to occur in every episode of One Punch Man Season 3.